great roller coaster is like a symphony in forces. But while the body is buffeted by engineering gone mad, every instinct of common sense is screaming for mercy. Danger, how do we love thee? Let us count the ways in Uberguy's list of the world's most extreme thrill rides. There are no rides more twisted than Colossus, our number 10 pick. A one-of-a-kind corkscrew of a coaster at England's Thorpe Park.
Well, the reason we called it Colossus is because it was the world's first 10-looping roller coaster. So it was a world first, it was in the Guinness Book of Records for us, and it definitely delivers on its promise of really putting you through your paces when you're on it, definitely.
Here you go,
Start off with the climb, a 100-foot climb to the top, and then you go through the first drop, which is a really steep drop going about 65 kilometres an hour. It then takes you straight through a corkscrew
into a cobra roll, which are kind of two inversions connected side by side.
And then there's a series of twists, loops, inversions, one way, then the next way. You really don't know where you are as you're going through the experience. We go through a tunnel, and then we come out the other side. There's various different levels and drops that you go through, and then just towards the end we put in this barrel roll, and there's 4 barrel rolls that you go through in like slow motion,
where it's just sort of one after the other, sort of slow but very cool, where it almost kind of feels like one of those carnival rides where you're flipping upside down over and over and over again.
And the last 4 and 5 are what we call inline twists, which rotate you along your heart line, along the centre of your body. They certainly know how to make your head spin. You come off that knowing you've been spun around.
First part is like a regular roller coaster. The second part, it's like being in a washing machine.
Fantastic. Spinny. Oh, I feel a bit wobbly. It's really good.
It was like the twirly-whirly screwdriving thing that you don't have there. You like fall out of your chair and you just hang in this harness thing, and it's very nice. You feel like you're gonna fall out, but you don't. It's great.
The loops do make you feel a bit sick though.
Colossus at Thorpe Park kind of holds a special place in my heart since I did get engaged on one of its supports. It's also very special because it was the first roller coaster in the world to go upside down 10 times.
It still holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the most inversions on any roller coaster.
It was brilliant, definitely do it. It's just the adrenaline rush, it's brilliant. Definitely come.
Absolutely marvellous.
You weren't scared?
No, excellent ride. The second time I've been on it.
We actually built the queue line through the ride, so even when you're queuing and the anticipation, kind of you've got people hurtling over your head and around you, and it just builds that excitement. When you first come up to the ride entrance, it actually looks quite slow. You just think, oh, that doesn't look like it's going to be much fun. When you're on the ride, it is the most unbelievable experience. You literally feel like you're going to fall out of your seat, and you just don't know what's happening, and it's so scary, and you'll hear people scream the most when they go through that section, and I think the rest of the ride put together, it's really good fun.
Yeah, Colossus is definitely, you can call it the loopiest ride in the world. Because after you get off the ride, you kind of feel a little bit loopy. Like, ooh.
You just barrel roll upside down, upside down, upside down, upside down, all in the same direction. And luckily, when you feel you can't take it anymore, they then put you the other direction to try to get you a little bit undizzy, but it doesn't work because it's so crazy.
Colossus is a real raw roller coaster. It's like a traditional steel coaster, and it just shakes your bones about when you go on it, and you come off feeling like you've had a real massive experience, and it just really makes people energized when they come off.
Insane. It's crazy. I feel sick.
I don't know, it's a bit weird. I don't feel like I'm going to puke, but I do feel a bit iffy, you know.
Universal Studios has never been shy about in-your-face fun. And our number 9 ride, The Revenge of the Mummy, is a real screamer.
Well, here at Universal Studios, we're constantly trying to one-up ourselves. Every time we create a ride or a show or an attraction, the next time out we have to take it a step higher. And it has a lot to do with the movie industry. With the dawn of computer animation, now virtually anything is possible in a movie. And our guests, they want to be able to ride the movies. So for a ride like The Mummy to combine two different kinds of technology or invent technology that's never been used before is very, very important to us. So every single time out, we have to take it to the next level so that we continue to give our guests the kind of thrills we're known for.
It really sort of like takes you into the world of the film. All the characters you remember are there. You know, all the Beatles and the Mummy characters, and sort of gives you that sort of same kind of fear that you did when you were in the movie theater, and that sort of jumping out of your seat. The roller coaster delivers that exact same experience.
I was involved with it from the very beginning, from the original idea. Actually, I ran into the director of the movie, Steven Summers, at a party here in Universal, and the first thing he said to me is, when are we going to do a ride based on my movie? So I started working on it from that point and saw it through all the way to completion. We combined what we call a dark ride, which is any slow-moving ride through a building, with a high-speed roller coaster, which is something that had never been done before. As far as the plot goes, it's real simple. The Tomb of the Mummy is cursed. By entering the tomb, you set off the curse, game on.
The park calls it a psychological thrill ride because it really preys on your innermost fears. You're in the dark, there's bugs, there's mummies, there's a lot of scary stuff happening.
The first thing you're going to experience entering a Revenge of the Mummy, the ride, is you're going to enter the tomb of Imhotep and learn that the tomb is cursed. So just by your mere presence, you're setting off the curse.
You're going through and you hear the story of Imhotep, and you know, you start getting a little bit worried because you're in the treasure room and there's fire, and that's not a good thing usually, and then there's mummies kind of attacking you.
And from that point on, it's basically a chase film. You have to try to get out of there before the mummy gets you.
And then you see the big mummy, and you know something's about to happen, and you actually launch into this whole dark roller coaster section where the only time you see light is when there's mummies attacking you.
If you really want to prey on everything people are afraid of, bugs. So scarab beetles are a big part of the movie, so we have scarab beetles in our ride. The dead rising to life is a big thing that we want to prey on. And of course, the idea of hurtling through absolute darkness and not knowing where you're going.
Every once in a while, like one of the mummies kind of pop out at you with a sword, and then all of a sudden you kind of stop in this one area and you think like, oh, thank God, you know, let me catch my breath and everything's okay. And then all of a sudden, something kind of happens, something you're not used to on very many roller coasters, and you take the rest of the ride backwards.
You didn't expect it because you get to the wall and I thought we were just going to go through it, and then it just shot you backwards. I was like, oh.
Revenge of the Mummy, you're definitely immersed in what made the film great. You know, all of those things that sort of, you know, made you jump out of your seat. It's all included in the roller coaster.
It just makes the ride more exciting, I think, because obviously you've got like characters to relate to and the story, they're talking about it on the way around.
Oh, it's great. It's quite scary, just like for adults. Yeah, no, it was unexpected. Yeah.
Another thing that we pioneered on Revenge of the Mummy, the ride, was the idea of delivering what we would call onboard effects, special effects onboard the ride vehicle. So when you're in the scene where we bring you to a stop and the scarab beetles attack you, air is delivered to the vehicle to activate leg ticklers so that you feel the scarab beetles crawling through the ride vehicle, and then it disengages before we launch you backwards. So that's the first as well.
Yeah, at first, yeah, when you see them crawling on the wall, you're thinking, oh, that's okay, and all of a sudden your legs start tickling. Yeah, that was pretty freaky.
When one of the guys gets eaten by scarabs, we want you to feel the goriness of that. So we're dripping water down on your head. We have fire effects that are not actually real fire. They're created with steam and special effect lighting. So there's all kinds of special effects that you use, much like when you're making a movie on a ride like this.
That was awesome.
I loved it. Very fast. Very
real
intense. Really cool.
It took off like... It was so much fun. Scary. She was like yelling at the monsters all the time. It was funny.
When Uber Guide returns, we're gonna push you over the edge in our search for the world's most extreme thrill ride. People talk about being on the edge, but one ride really delivers the experience. SheiKra at Busch Gardens, Africa, our number 8 pick.
This is SheiKra. It's a dive coaster. It's the only dive coaster in North America. SheiKra evokes the name of the African hawk as it dives down onto the plain.
SheiKra is a B&M dive machine. It's in Tampa, Florida, and it was the third one to be built, and they say third time's a charm because this one actually has 2 vertical drops. This one goes upside down, which no other one ever did before, and it has this great water splash finale where if you're on the side, you probably will get a little bit wet.
Dive coaster has a 90-degree drop. So you go to the top of the lift, you go over the edge, and you'll see it. You hang over the edge, you sit there for about 3 or 4 seconds. That feels like 20 seconds.
And you just feel like, okay, I'm looking straight down, and this is kind of strange. I'm not supposed to be doing this.
And then it drops you 90 degrees straight down. That's 200 feet up. As soon as it releases you at the top of the lift, the feeling is just like skydiving, like going off the edge of a cliff.
And you come up, you do a dive loop inversion, do some more kind of funky roller coaster stuff.
You pull out, you go upside down in this Immelmann maneuver, which is really great. It was named for a German fighter pilot, actually.
It's the first Immelmann on a dive coaster in the world. It starts off just as a regular loop, but as you come to the top of the loop, you twist out of it. So you have this twisting maneuver, so you get a lot of rolling sensations as you're at the top of that loop, which creates a lot of feeling of weightlessness.
And then you come up to another place and you think, ah, thank God, you can take a breath for a second and I'm safe.
And then you get a little break and you see that the track just kind of looks like it ends in front of you, but it doesn't end. It actually does another 90-degree drop into a hole in the ground.
The second dive is 138 feet. It goes into a tunnel, which then goes underground for 200 feet. Around the top of our smokehouse.
And then SheiKra has this big, huge sort of like splash grand finale, like right into the giant pool.
This is the water feature finale. You'll see SheiKra hit the lake, and the scoops on the bottom of the frame pick up the water and shoot it up into this beautiful rooster tail. It just throws water up in the air, but it's functional. It provides 20% of the braking power for the ride.
The first dive coaster in the U.S. The first 90-degree ever built. And the ride manufacturer said, we can do a 90-degree now, let's try it. So we're very, very happy. 2 drops, even the water break makes it a special ride. Riders from all over the country are coming in and just raving how wonderful the ride is.
There's some people who want really extreme rides, and then there's some people who just want rides that are fun, rides that they can ride over and over and over again. SheiKra definitely fits the bill on both of those. You can ride it over and over again, and it's definitely got thrills.
Cedar Point's Millennium Force is number 7 on our list, and it's a powerhouse of non-stop speed and awesome airtime.
Millennium Force opened here at Cedar Point in the year 2000. It was the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world. 310 feet tall, 93 miles an hour. It travels over 6,500 feet of track. It's got several airtime hills. It's got one of the steepest drops on any roller coaster, and it's nothing but speed and airtime throughout the entire ride.
Millennium Force is an Intamin hypercoaster, or actually I guess technically it's a gigacoaster, because it was the first roller coaster in the world to go over 300 feet up in the air. And when it was built, it had the steepest drop in the world. It was the fastest. It was the everythingest roller coaster. And it still is ranked up there as one of the best roller coasters in the world today.
Loved it. Yeah. The best.
It's an incredible ride. And it's got an elevator lift system to drag you up to the top of the ride, and a huge view, and then down a massive drop, and off you go. Smooth, fast, very strong ride.
Just hands down the best ride I have ever been on. It was best ride ever. Best ride. Amazing.
90 miles an hour. Huge drop. It's got overbanks when the track goes beyond the vertical after it. It takes some of the speed out. Absolutely wonderful ride. No loops. It just stays low, goes fast, goes out into a forest. It takes big hills out, and then it can only be described as it goes mad on the way back. It just whips in and out of itself. An insane, wonderful, wonderful ride. I don't know, I wish I was on it right now. And it really is the best in the world. It's my #1 coaster.
Oh my God. I had my hands up the whole time, but it took everything I had in me. It was
We need a
incredible.
nap now. Oh my God. The climbing up's a little scary, but the drop's the best. Hands up all the way.
It broke 10 world records when it opened back in 2000, and it's also been voted the best steel roller coaster in the world for the past 4 years.
And it's just so much fun. It's so smooth. All of the hills are sort of designed just perfectly, so you just get that right amount of airtime where it's not too extreme, but it's extreme enough to kind of freak you out a little bit, and you just have a good time. Everybody always comes back in the station clapping, cheering, and they just know that that's why it's ranked one of the best roller coasters in the world.
One of the big things that coaster enthusiasts crave on our roller coasters are G-forces, and you can get positive Gs and negative Gs. The positive Gs occur when you hit the bottom of a hill and you're actually pressed down into your seat. The negative Gs are the ones that every enthusiast loves and what most guests love, that feeling of weightlessness when you're going over the top of the hill, lifting up off of your seat. That's what they crave the most, and that's what this ride delivers all the way through the whole ride from beginning to end.
Millennium Force is all about speed. When it opened, it was the tallest, it was the fastest, but it's still on the list because of its speed, and people love that. A lot of times you're low to the ground and you see the trees and the grass just whizzing by you so fast. Even though it looks so scary as one of the tallest and fastest roller coasters in the world, it really is one of the most fun.
The maximum speed of Millennium Force is 93 miles an hour, and you reach that speed right when you hit the bottom of the first hill, and that speed maintains itself throughout the entire ride. You're not going to stop until you hit the last brake run going back into the station, so it's pure speed all the way through. Riders are going up at a 45-degree angle. It's one of the steepest lift hills in the world. Once they hit the top of the hill, they're at 310 feet off the ground. And then on the way down, it's 80 degrees, almost straight down, and you're going 93 miles an hour into an overbank turn.
The first drop looked like you were just going to go right into the ground. It was so steep and so fast.
All I see is the cars in front of me getting sucked down. Once the adrenaline starts rushing, it's all go. All go, baby.
The Millennium Force's track is very unique in that the trains hug the rails nice and tight, so it's a smooth ride, but the ride doesn't go upside down, it doesn't do anything crazy. What it does do is several overbank turns in the ride. There's several points where the track is actually tilted upside down. When the train's going through that very fast, you don't really feel that. But when you look at the track, that first turn right, it's at 122 degrees. So it's tilted almost upside down, but not really. But the whole ride has lots of hills, lots of airtime, and most of all, lots of speed as it's going through all the elements of the ride.
Millennium Force is sick.
I thought Millennium Force was awesome.
I was afraid of the Millennium Force, but I want to go again now.
Millennium Force's track travels through over 6,500 feet of it, okay? So you got several elements throughout the ride where you're traveling over water. You're traveling onto an island inside the park. You travel around that and you actually come back. The track ends over the queue line. So the people in line are actually surrounded by the track at the very last turn. It comes around that turn and the ride's over. So while you're waiting for the ride, you get a great view of how much fun you're about to have.
We signed our wills before we got it. That's for sure.
Yeah!
Millennium Force!
Whoa! Coming up, a ground-hugging serpent of a coaster and a rockin' white-knuckle Woody. Next on Uber Guide. There's a knotted mass of serpentine curves at Germany's Phantasialand. Black Mamba, number 6 on our list, is a ground-hugging monster ready to devour all who approach it.
Everybody knows the Black Mamba is a symbol for danger, immense power, rapidness or quickness, soundlessness, and pure aggressiveness. And our ride, the Black Mamba, is just alike. It's all these characteristics that it has to it.
I guess Black Mamba would be like the giant snake of roller coasters.
Black Mamba is very interesting. They built it in these buildings and partially underground.
So Black Mamba is kind of buried within the building and buried underground, and as you're going through all these crazy sets of like twists and turns, you know, you're flying past like all this like immersive theming, and just it's one of those rides where it's yes, it's a thrill ride, but it also kind of takes you to like, you know, another dimension or like another world in a way.
The creation of the ride required extensive excavation and underground tunneling. Then, the entire site was elaborately themed to resemble an African village.
The 5,000 pieces of decoration, the decorational elements were all handcrafted by 60 craftsmen in a village in Cameroon in Africa. We did not want our guests to experience Africa like a visit to a museum. We wanted them to make them experience Africa with all its energy and mysticism.
Absolutely wow, this ride. Amazing ride. It's been built mostly underground. So as you sit in the car and you travel along, you're swooping past waterfalls and rocks, and at one point you go past a restaurant so everyone can look up and watch you as you're terrified as you go upside down again. Yeah, really pulled out the stops on this ride.
Every seat has a very individual riding experience to it. After the first drop, the Black Mamba tempts you with 5 inversions. The outside vertical looping, the 0G roll, the inclined Immelmann, and 2 flat outside spins that are called corkscrews. And the 2 flat spins bracket 1 horseshoe and 2 high-speed spirals.
Oh, pretty amazing, yeah. I mean, it was a continuous thing. You didn't know when it was going to stop. I mean, on some of the other rides, I was screaming all the way around, but I just didn't even get a chance to draw breath. On this one, it was amazing. It's as good a ride as I've ever been on. Really good.
The Black Mamba travels through some of the narrowest passages ever constructed for a roller coaster.
What a lot of roller coasters can't do is be very high. So what you generally tend to do if you're not going to be very high to make the speed a bit more impressive is you put objects beside it, so you sometimes get trees and stuff like that. But with Black Mamba, they just buried the whole ride half under the ground. So they've got rocks and bridges and all sorts of manner of stuff flying past you. Truly wonderful ride.
It was scary. It was scarier than I thought it was going to be. Didn't quite know what to expect, and some of the twists were very good.
Really, it was sort of an adrenaline rush all the way through. It was quite intense. It was an amazing ride. Really good.
And you've been thrown about, and legs feel a bit like jelly at the moment.
I thought it was really, really fun. I mean, it was like, the G-force was amazing, and it was so fast. It was just the best ride here.
We're off to Santa Claus, Indiana, for one of the world's best scream machines, the Voyage, our number 5 pick, a white-knuckle trip to roller coaster nirvana.
Voyage is another great wooden roller coaster. It's more the traditional style of building a wooden roller coaster where it's got that kind of aggressive, out-of-control feel, and it's really one of the biggest, tallest, fastest in all of America.
The Voyage is the anchor of our new Thanksgiving themed section here at Holiday World. So it's loosely themed around the idea that this is the first voyage of the Mayflower to the New World, and you're traveling across the storm-tossed North Atlantic.
When you think about the voyage that the Pilgrims took and all the crazy transatlantic ships, this is a pretty crazy, ride through the wilderness.
There are a number of interesting things about the track on the Voyage. First of all, we built it in the woods, so the track is hidden from view. You can't see it from the park, other than the first couple of big hills. The track includes 5 underground tunnels, 3 of which you go through twice, so 8 times on this ride you're underground.
In the tunnel, because it looks like you're about to take your head off.
Yeah, it looks like you're going to hit your head down the start
because you're flying out of your seat anyway. So.
In addition to that, we have 3 90-degree bank curves, which is the first time it's ever been done on a wooden roller coaster.
One of the unique things about Voyage is it's one of the only wooden roller coasters in the world that actually has a 90-degree bank turn. So you're riding on the coaster and all of a sudden, 90 degrees, and you're banked like you're up on your side. In fact, all the coaster enthusiasts we know, when they come up to that 90 degrees part, that's what they shout, 90 degrees!
Yeah, the bank turns were awesome. Yeah, you just go sideways, totally sideways through these turns.
You're looking straight ahead, holding on, and all of a sudden you're 90 degrees to the right or to the left, and you do it 3 times on the ride, which is really crazy.
So the Voyage claims to have the most airtime of any roller coaster in the world. So what airtime is it's that feeling where all of a sudden you kind of you pop up out of your seat.
When we set out to design the ride, one of the things we really wanted to do was to have as much airtime as possible, because that's what's fun about an out-and-back style coaster. The Voyage has 24 seconds of weightlessness on it.
And that's probably the most weightlessness anybody's going to feel short of being in a NASA training vehicle. That's a lot of airtime.
It was insane. It was amazing. It was so fast at first drop. It was crazy.
It's one of the longest, it's one of the fastest coasters in the world. It's built kind of often into the woods. It's got a lot of tunnels. Just basically every moment on the voyage is an exciting roller coaster ride.
It's the most powerful coaster on the planet in terms of sheer energy and force. I mean, it just throws you all over the place. Lots of big hills, airtime galore. It's really something else.
Voyage is almost 2 roller coasters in one because it has this giant, what they call an out and back section, which is just a lot of big, graceful hills. But then instead of just turning around and coming back, you have this twister section where you do 2 of the 90-degree turns and you go in some tunnels. And then you come back for the out and back section, and before you hit the station, it does another twister section. So it's really one of the longest rides in the world, and it feels it. It feels like a long ride, and that's kind of nice because a lot of roller coasters are getting shorter and shorter, and Voyage is one of the longest.
There is actually a break in the middle of the ride where the train slows down, and this is actually a positive thing because our guests report over and over that they think the ride's coming to an end, and in fact it's just exactly the opposite. There's just a short pause and then things just start accelerating, accelerating, accelerating all the way to the end.
It's one heck of a ride. It beats any other ride here in the U.S. that I've been to.
The Voyage in its first year was voted the best new ride, and it also debuted at number 2 as the second best wooden roller coaster on the planet in Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Award. That's the highest position any ride has ever debuted on that list.
It's the best ride I've ridden so far. It's fun. It is a blast.
It's the best roller coaster I've ever been on.
Next, what goes up must come down. Get ready to soar with the Eagles on Uber Guide's countdown of the world's most extreme thrill rides. We've ridden the world's loopiest coaster and survived the psychological terror of the Mummy. SheiKra put us over the edge, and Millennium Force offered its Giga Thrills. Now that we've been stung by the Black Mamba and journeyed on The Voyage, it's time for our number 4 extreme thrill ride. Its name is Tatsu, and it's the new flying beast at Magic Mountain.
Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain, the Dragon Flying Coaster, Extreme.
It's called a flying coaster. It's built by B&M. They're the premier ride manufacturer in the world. They make the smoothest, fastest, best ride possible, and they are the most expensive. They spent quite a lot of money on this ride, but it's well worth it. It has a great loop. The loop when it's the most thrilling part of the ride, in my opinion. I'm not quite sure the number of G's that it puts on the body, but let me tell you, it's very thrilling. It's great. You can't beat it.
Where you start off sitting just like me, and all of a sudden you're kind of raised into this flying position.
Tatsu may be the first one to finally give the true impression of flying.
The ride's sort of built on top of the mountain, and when you're going up the lift hill and suddenly when you come up the cliff where the elevation sort of drastically changes from it feels nice and safe to like, oh my God, where did the earth just go? That's when the blood starts running. That's when the adrenaline starts kicking in, and you sort of realize, wow, this is a really wild, crazy type of ride.
I got the sensation I was going to fall out of my chair, and that was the only thing I was looking at, basically.
Tatsu has an inversion which we call the pretzel loop. A pretzel loop is a loop where you enter and exit at the top of the loop instead of like your traditional sort of roller coaster loop where you enter and exit at the bottom.
So you enter the loop at a normal speed, but once you start to come down, you start to have gravity starts to add to that speed, and plus the fact that it's also now trying to change your direction, you get that real feel of the forces of nature pushing on your body.
Where it pulls so many G's and you're so used to flying on this roller coaster, but this pretzel loop just slams you into restraint on your back and you just feel the G forces.
And then you exit out to the top of the loop and you go again into another barrel roll, and then you proceed over what we call the waterfall, which is the very front entrance of the park.
That's the longest, tallest, fastest flying coaster in the world.
That was awesome. That's all I have to say. It was just crazy.
This one's pretty awesome. Like, you're sitting there and they put you up so you're like horizontal on the ground, and then they shoot you off. There's this one part in it where you go on this big backwards loop, and you're just freaking out when you go up really high at first, and it's like, yeah, this is awesome, it's worth that, and then you just shoot down. It's pretty awesome.
As these obstacles come up, you get the sense that you're actually going to crash into them, or the ride's going to be too close, and you might hit an arm or something on there, but obviously you don't. They have a very safe clearance envelope.
Probably the best roller coaster I've ever ridden on myself.
Yeah.
One loop back there, the G-force was unbelievable, man.
Pretty intense. Oh, yeah. Dang near blacked out.
Number one, by far. No question.
Our number 3 ride was born in the overheated imagination of a coaster designer. Then, with great difficulty, it had to be constructed. Now, the remaining challenge is finding the guts to ride Kingda Ka at Six Flags Great Adventure.
Ooh, Kingda Ka. Well, that's the big one.
The fastest, tallest launch coaster in the world, 456 feet tall, launching at speeds of 128 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds.
So if you want to get launched out your seat at 128 miles and soar up to 456 feet, come flying back down to the earth through this insane bunny hill where you get launched out of your seat, full of airtime, that's what Kingda Ka is all about.
It was crazy.
It was really crazy.
It goes so fast. You don't even feel the drop, but you get so many butterflies, you get so scared, but it's fun.
I think whatever the newest, tallest, fastest coaster always belongs on a top 10 list because it is just pushing roller coasters to the next level, and that's definitely what Kingda Ka did.
It's a launched roller coaster.
And it launches you from a standing start to the 120 miles an hour in 4 seconds.
It's a hydraulic cable launch system. It's somewhat similar to what you might see on an aircraft carrier. Hydraulic power takes the catch car, engages the train, winds up that cable as quickly as possible to launch the train at 128 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds.
Anything short of sitting in a Formula One car, you're not going to ever experience that sort of acceleration. And you know it just keeps going, and you pin to your seat.
Oh my goodness, there's nothing like this in the world. People were praying before it launched. It was awesome.
Frighteningly impressive ride. You can see it for miles.
The intensity of Kingda Ka is different from any other ride that we have in this park, and really different from anything else in the world. 128 mile an hour, nothing in this world like it, nothing.
I've ridden Kingda Ka 56 times since it opened last year. When the launch grabs you, a few people think that they might want to put their arms up, but they don't. The force is too great. You're glued to the back of the seat. By the time you get to the end of the launch, the speed is blinding. Your face is distorted by the wind. Your eyes are closed. They're tearing. You don't know where you are. You feel the train pull up. You're heading skyward. Suddenly you can open your eyes, and all you're seeing is sky. You crest the top of the ride slowly, and the state of New Jersey is at your feet.
And you find yourself 450 feet up in the air, freaking out, thinking please, please, please let it come back down. Please let it come down.
And you're at the top, and it gives you just that split second where you slow down enough to look straight down, because that's where you're about to go, just as fast.
Before you can enjoy that view, down you're tossed over the edge of what feels like the tallest cliff in the world. As soon as you can see the track twisting, you're through the corkscrew, down to the bottom, one more hump that you float out of your seat and you're done. Very fast, very intense ride.
God, you're really pleased to get off. That's a hell of a ride.
An adrenaline rush like you have no idea, really. The launch, 128 miles an hour, is just ridiculous.
I think the actual ride's probably only about 20-25 seconds, but it's absolutely the most intense 25 seconds you can spend in your life. I love being on the tallest, fastest roller coaster in the world, and from the minute this launch grabs you until you hit the final brakes, you're in for the ultimate thrill, for sure.
Since it launched, honestly, I didn't even know what happened. It was so fast, but just the adrenaline rush was great.
I ride coasters everywhere. I've been around the country. I've been in Europe. There's nothing like this coaster. Nothing.
Equated to an aircraft carrier launch, being on a jet plane, getting launched off an aircraft carrier. I'd equate it to skydiving or bungee jumping because of the insane height and the verticalness of both the rise and drop segments.
I equate it to machinery being pushed to the ultimate limit so we can get the ultimate thrill. There is no more thrilling coaster than Kingda Ka.
Kingda Ka is arguably the most intense experience one can have on a thrill ride in any park, anywhere. Nothing else comes close.
Coming up, our number 2 pick has the specs of a steel mega coaster, but this monstrous Woody is in a category all by itself. Say hello to El Toro, the Bull, our number 2 pick for the best extreme thrill ride in the world.
This year we opened Plaza del Carnaval, which El Toro is in. It's a new Mexican-themed area, so El Toro fit perfectly right in that new section. El Toro is a great addition for not only our thrill seekers, but also families. You know, the height restriction is 48 inches, unlike most of our coasters are 54 inches. So you'll see a lot of fathers and sons riding the coaster together, a lot of mothers and daughters riding the coaster together. So it's definitely something that the whole family can do together.
Great roller coaster.
7 years old. These guys, 7 years old. Come here, man. They were just on it. They forced me to go on. I wasn't going to go on. Give me the
Look at awesome.
Yeah.
El Toro just is really in a class by itself. It's one of the tallest and fastest wooden coasters in all the world. It has the steepest drop of any roller coaster in the world. I mean, you're 181 feet up in the air and you go down 70 miles an hour and it feels a lot faster because you have that wind in your face and you have your hands up in the air and they're being pushed back behind you because it's so strong. And, you know, El Toro, it really is a bull and you got to grab it by the horns.
When you look at a wooden coaster, you're reminded of the nostalgia that, you know, this is a ride, the wooden coaster is a ride that's been, you know, the king of the park since there've been amusement parks pretty much. And nowadays with computer technology and engineering, they're able to build them stronger and faster, more powerful, more thrilling.
We measure lumber in the United States by board feet, but there's close to 2 million board feet of lumber. Wooden coasters are very, very traditional. The first coasters ever built were out of wood, and you'd be amazed at how many wooden coasters that were built both in the United States and around the world, you know, in the 1800s and early 1900s. But wood itself has got a great, great feel. It's got a much different ride experience. And, you know, today with the, you know, competing steel coasters, you know, wood has become a favorite again because it's kind of been a drought for the past 10 years of wood coasters.
El Toro is also the first wooden roller coaster to use a cable lift system. This means that you're actually from the bottom up the 200 feet of El Toro in literally 20 seconds or less instead of the traditional chain lift, which kind of takes a while. It's so fast, actually, that it's about 18 miles an hour on the lift hill.
Come around the turn, it drops you down the first drop. It's the steepest drop on any wood coaster in the world. It's a record-breaking steepest drop, 76-degree angle. The ride lasts about a minute and a half or so. Takes you through a bunch of different hills, a twister finale area. The ride overall is just, it's an exciting ride. It's great for everyone.
Amazing new wooden coaster out in New Jersey with the steepest drop on the wooden coaster. It's 190 feet tall. The wooden coaster. It uses a brand new fabrication system because wooden coasters have been the same for 100 years. And it's all brand new, very smooth, very fast. It's what's called a big airtime machine, which you float out of your seat over the hills. Designed for that. And wonderful, wonderful ride. Best ride in.
The great thing about El Toro is that it offers 9 different airtime opportunities. That's that point when your butt's out of the seat. You get that feeling of weightlessness. So El Toro offers 9 different air times. 4 of them are just on the hills alone. So it's definitely, you walk off this ride and you're just like, wow, it's an exciting ride. It's one of those rides that you just want to keep going on again because it's so smooth. It's not like your normal typical wood coaster.
The ride structure is a different kind than most wooden coasters. It's much smoother, it's much stronger, it's going to hold up for a long life. The air time that this ride gives you, it throws you out of your seat repeatedly for the most thrill anywhere. For a long time, you're really relying on the lap bar and restraints to keep you in the train.
Yo, it was awesome. It was like, oh my God. It was the best thing ever.
The speed and power and everything about the experience of this roller coaster is intense. I mean, it's so much wood, so tall, So strong, so fast. You gotta love it. There's no way you can ride this ride without loving it.
It's one of the new style wooden roller coasters, so it's really smooth, but still has that out of control, crazy airtime that you're used to on a wooden roller coaster.
Wooden's special. It's just smooth riding. This one's real smooth for wood.
You know, El Toro is just, it's a fast ride. It's very smooth. Again, you can just throw your hands up in the air and have a great time. Lots of airtime on the ride. And, you know, it ends with this just kind of S-turns, twisting and turning all over the place. So it still feels like a wooden roller coaster, but it's a much smoother experience than any other wooden roller coaster out there.
That was the best! Crazy.
It was the best.
You still got slime on I still got slime left on my face, see?
I've been on El Toro 55 times so far.
It was insane. It was crazy.
I don't really get scared much anymore. I get thrilled, and yes, this one thrills me.
Next, the countdown concludes with a masterpiece of physics and Uber Guide's #1 choice for most extreme thrill ride. Grab your lederhosen and find your way to Holiday Park in Hasloch, Germany for Expedition G-Force, Uber Guide's pick for the world's #1 extreme thrill ride.
Expedition G-Force was one of the first of a new generation of very computer-designed steel coasters, which means the track is spot on. First drop looks like something's gone wrong overnight and it's melted or done something odd. The track does a very strange twist in the drop.
Expedition G-Force has everything. It's got speed, it's got airtime, 200 feet tall. It throws you down that first drop at what feels like near vertical. Every single hill has what we call just extreme kind of almost ejector airtime. You're grabbing onto the lap bar, you know, to stay in your seat. And it's one of those rides where you can just throw your hands up, have a great time throughout the entire ride, laugh and have fun, and you come into the brake run, everybody claps, everybody cheers, because you've just been on the best steel coaster in the world.
The first time I was on, I was really scared because I heard it's like a 90-degree angle, and I've never been on a roller coaster like that. So I was really scared of that at first. And then going down there, you don't really see the tracks because it just goes down, and so you see the air, the trees and the forest, and you just don't know where you're going. That's the very first feeling I had when I rode that for the first time.
Expedition G-Force is my favorite roller coaster in the world. It's just so great. It goes 200 feet up, it does this spiraling drop almost straight down into this series of bunny hills and airtime hills and overbank turns, and you're going in and out of the trees, you're over the rapids ride. You just have a lap bar, so you're free to just throw your hands up and have a great time.
You twist into it, then it goes up one big hill, goes back down, and does another twist, so you're kind of riding sideways for a little bit. And then a couple, big humps that just get your stomach up in the air, following you.
Every year there's an internet coaster poll, and Expedition G-Force has been ranked the #1 steel coaster for at least the last couple years.
Expedition G-Force, wow, that's just one of my favourite rides. It really is. From start to finish, it's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's a curving, twisting, impossible-looking plummet towards the ground. And then from then onwards, it's just divine the whole way around. You're out of your seat, floating around in your seat as you go up over the bumps. And it's magic. That's one I will just go on again and again.
Expedition G-Force was designed by the legendary Werner Stengel, who considered this coaster his masterwork.
He developed more than 500 mega coasters and hypercoasters the world over. And the coaster community, he's basically the god of them all. The German magazine Spiegel also called him the Lord of Organized Puking. I think we were just very lucky that we had Werner Stengel designing this coaster, and at the end, yes, you could say it's a form of artistry. When you move up the first lift hill, which is 62 meters tall, then you have a very dramatic, unique first drop, which is 82 degrees downward into 4.5 positive Gs, meaning 4.5 Gs are pressing you into your seat of the roller coaster train.
It's just a great ride where you can't find rides that are built like that through the trees and that have all these elements of a great coaster. Airtime, positive Gs, negative Gs, overbank turns, a great setting.
In 2003, roller coaster fanatic Richard Rodriguez set a Guinness Book record riding Expedition G-Force 24 hours a day for 49 days straight.
The biggest problem was, of course, we didn't have a toilet for him. So we built the first roller coaster toilet that fit into one of the cars here at Expedition G-Force so that he could conduct 24 hours riding a roller coaster. Werner Stengel always says a coaster is like an opera. You have to have a big opening and you have to have the big end. The big opening on a coaster is not that difficult. You have your lift hill and then you start the track, you start the ride. But what do you do about the end? With our coaster here, Expedition G-Force has magnetic brakes, so you still have more than 40 miles per hour when you enter the brakes. And it's like an opera. With a bang, the ride is over.
And G-Force just gets it so right. It's a gloriously smooth, keeps your attention. I love that ride.
It's the roller coaster ride.
Hands down, my favorite steel coaster in the world.
The greatest coaster designers find ever more sophisticated ways to make us plead for mercy and cry for mommy. These engineers of adrenaline know that fear and ecstasy are bosom buddies. We honor their magnificent creations in Uber Guide's list of the world's most extreme thrill rides.